What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday to all of you. And what looks like a very bullish move by Bitcoin and holy hell, Chainlink and the broader crypto space. And so it's video time. I told you guys I was going to do a video. It's going to be quick. Get straight to the point on kind of my thoughts. But we are doing precisely kind of what I was thinking we would do. Again, recap, I've basically been waiting to see how the market plays out because I have always envisioned two scenarios. One of those scenarios being that this entire thing was just going to be a massive retrace into this 618, 702, give or take range. So call it somewhere between, call it upper 40s into the low 50s, call it 45 to 52-ish. And if that was going to occur, if you remember one of my very first videos on this, probably all the way back, sometime in either 2022 or at least the very beginning of this move in 2023 as we popped out of here in January. As we popped out of here in January, I was saying that I felt that if we moved too quickly, let me actually just draw some stuff. I said that essentially that if we moved too quickly out of this, that we would see, let's do a better job than that. If we moved too quickly out of this thing, that if we came up here, that ultimately would be a retrace potentially for significantly lower. I've been very staunch in my belief that the 12K calls are ridiculous. They don't make any sense. The only reason people are saying 12K and have been saying 12K, let me go to a weekly chart. The only reason people have been saying 12K is because they can tie in some level of support here in this region as it kind of acted as like resistance for a period of time back in 2019. And it also lines up with what used to be your typical drops of, 80 to 85% from the top. And so, I think ultimately the 12K calls have always been wrong. I have always believed that either 15.5 was the bottom, or we are in a much bigger world of for a much bigger world of hurt, and we were going to see 4-digit Bitcoin, call it 9853, something bad, something significant, and that the precursors, to determining whether or not this was going to be a retrace move, or if this was going to be something that was building a base of support for an actual bull run, were a few things. It was one, that we don't move up too quick, too fast. And we have met that mark. I actually drew some squiggly lines on a video a while back and said, instead of this retrace move, what I would rather have see out of this is just something, like this, and maybe comes up a little bit, maybe comes down. But basically, in a nutshell, that we stayed in between, call it 20 and 35K, and we just meandered sideways for a prolonged period of time. And while I didn't give a specific time frame necessary for it, I basically said that it needed to be fairly substantial. I think we have crossed that mark. We are now, if you count from the peak in November 2021, we are 707 days. And I have always believed that the actual bull market ended in April. So I have actually argued that I believe, May. Yeah, I guess was it April? Yeah, it would have been in April. We had the Ethereum and alt season that ran into May, but that April was essentially the peak of this bull market. And if you look at that, we're almost 1,000 days into this thing. Again, the premise of that is that this was just a retracement that got out of hand because of crazy over leveraged SBF, Luna, Duquan, God knows what. But that this probably should have just folded here, right? And kind of rolled over, but didn't. Anyways, back to the point of this video, which is for this to possibly be a base of support for a new bull run, we needed to see this play out. It has now done that. I think if we move up now, again, when I first did these videos in the beginning of 2023, if it had moved up in Q1 of 2023, or really even Q2 of 2023, I would have been very, very skeptical of the move. And I had mentioned many times that I had take profit points at, I had it at 30, and I did take it at 30. That was the very first one. So I took profits at 30, and that I was also going to take profits again in the upper 30s and the mid 40s, 30, 35, 37, and again, kind of like that mid to upper 40 range, assuming it was a retrace. That's if we moved up quick. I am getting to the point where I am going to pull those profit takes, because I think this is becoming more and more clear that it is a legitimate accumulation. What's what I'm looking for? Capitulation over time scenario, right? You have capitulation of price. This is capitulation of price, and then this is capitulation of time, and so we needed both of those, in my opinion, to be able to build enough of a base support to move forward. The other thing that I said was absolutely critical is that if and when we did move up, that Bitcoin dominance would not falter. That, let me pull it up here. Whoops, what the hell am I doing? And it has not. So Bitcoin dominance is only continuing to surge. Now, we are at a very key inflection point here. It looks like we have broken, but I would be wary of, this thing just being a deviation and then slightly putting in a higher high. But in my mind, this is all good things. Now, could we come down a little bit? Again, my little squiggly lines. Could we come down and do this? Yes. We could play in this range before we go on a bull run, and then we drop. But we needed. I believe that if we start to move up, in price, that if we move up in price while this comes down, I think that would be a cause for concern. We really don't want to see the Bitcoin dominance move too far down until Bitcoin is approaching or getting close to new all-time highs. That is how it is operated in every single previous cycle. And until proven otherwise, we have to assume that it is going to operate in the exact same way. And so we have the time capitulation. We have built out a base of support. We have not lost Bitcoin dominance as of yet. We want to see it stay fairly strong if we do get a move up. I think the only thing, obviously, that is of broader concern is macro and what's kind of going on with that. But I think ultimately, somebody said it on Twitter the other day, and I think it kind of highlights it. There is 84 days until the final deadline for the Bitcoin ETFs, and I am of the belief that they are going to get approved at some point between now and then. Again, you've heard it a million times over. BlackRock has filed whatever it is, 300, 500, 5,000, whatever. I don't remember what the number is, but they've only not gotten one ETF ever. I don't believe this will be the second. And so they're going to get it. And I believe they're going to approve all of them at relatively the same time. And that is sometime between now and January of 2024. And I just think at this point, if you're thinking we're going to go into Goblin Town, I think everything is about probabilities and risk and reward. And your risk reward here was much better to take profit. And there is always a risk down here that this could go lower, but the ROI, for this, the ROI is in your favor, where we not only are currently at from a price standpoint, but also where we are at from an 84 days or whatever it is left until the likely approval of a Bitcoin ETF. Is there a possibility that it becomes a sell the news event? There is. I do think that's still a possibility we have to watch out for, especially with macro playing out the way it is. Are we going to get a front run? I believe the more and more institutional money comes into the space, that it is going to continue to get front run. I think that's what happened in 2021. So that everybody understands, Wyckoff schematics, distributions, and accumulation patterns are patterns of institutional money selling or buying, right? And the reason why the pattern plays out the way it plays out is because there's a lot to offload, and they do it in chunks rather than in significant lump sums, so as not to move the price too significantly. And so they're selling in small batches to not move the markets too much. And so that's why you get these kind of topping patterns, Wyckoff distribution patterns, which if you remember 2021, I mean, this was a Wyckoff distribution pattern like to the T. I believe it's the first Wyckoff distribution pattern that we have seen in any of Bitcoin's previous runs. And I believe part of the reason why is because even though we didn't get a ton of institutional money this last round, you started to see that. And so you're starting to see, and people and I also believe that, people had already had 2 full bull runs with 2013 and 2017. So understanding how things work, it's a game theory thought process where if you know it's going to happen again, kind of a thing, you are going to front run it harder each and every single time. And so I think that's why we saw such a surge in the manner in which we did in 2020 and 2021. And then you saw the distribution top. I believe the same is, and probably even more so, possibly at play here for this next run, if in fact we do get it, which is that I think the halving will be front run. I think and there is a strong possibility that the bull run will be significantly shorter than anything that we've had previously, because everyone is going to front run it significantly more so than they have in the past. And then they're going to take profits earlier than they have in the past. And so, and that's just, I think, that's part of the maturity of the space. But I see that as a definite possibility. As with everything, there is a possibility that this breaks down. We are in, it's probably easier to see on a daily. We still are playing with, and this is the one caveat to whether I do think this is a legitimate move. I for whatever reason, I think this is a legitimate move. Again, probabilities, not certainties. The probability in my mind is that we broke very cleanly above this bull market support band. I think what's likely is we come up, maybe if we get a retest and then a bounce, I think we're good. In other words, we kind of want to stay above this kind of, let's just call it 28K-ish range would be ideal, so that if we do get a pullback, we use 28 as support, and then we can bounce and move higher from here, or we could just continuing higher as we are. But until we break, let's call it 31, 32, somewhere in this range, we're still playing with a potential head and shoulders. I don't think this is a great head and shoulders pattern, but I think you still have to play, you still have to be wary of it, that until we break out of this thing, that is still a possibility. And of all the patterns out there, even though I don't think this is a true, really clean head and shoulders is one of, if not the most consistently accurate charting patterns that exists out there. So we break cleanly out of this, and I think we could definitely see a move into the mid-30s. I think the most important thing is how we close this week. So I would be on a lookout for Sunday to see how kind of things play out. But I think with the ETF, I think with all the lawsuits that the SEC has lost, I think with the halving, what is it? Call it 6 months away, give or take. What is the? Let's see. Bitcoin halving 2024. It's not saying. Where is it supposed to be? April 2024. Okay. So you got the 84 days or so for the likely ETF approval, and then another 3 months after that, you have the halving. You just have a lot of bullish catalysts that are moving. Again, you have the SEC losing lawsuits. So I think that we have played out everything. Again, I'll continue to watch Bitcoin dominance. I have effectively pulled my profit takes because I think this is something that could be a larger scale move. It's not going to go up immediately. But anyways, those are my thoughts. This is the first time that I have been, it's a little scary to say that I've been this confident, because that always makes me nervous that I'm too euphoric or positive, and so that it could kick me in the face. But seeing this move this far out, I've always felt that holding this 24/8 line was extremely important. We did. I didn't want to see a retest of 15 or 19. I thought 12K was completely ridiculous. I think this could be it, at least the beginning of it. Doesn't mean it's going to be clean. Doesn't mean it's going to be fun. Doesn't mean it's not going to be scary. But I do think that the next 3 months are going to be positive. So, cheers.